Expanding cooperation with our Asia-Pacific region neighbors is one of the priorities of Russia's foreign policy. Russia's presidency theme this year is Integrate to Grow, Innovate to Prosper. In our efforts to steer the work of the organization during our presidency, we tried to be guided by the current priorities and issues that will be relevant tomorrow. We tried to identify such areas where our efforts to enhance the leading role of APEC economies in global economy to be most efficient, to create additional sources of sustainable growth. We believe we have successfully achieved goals that were formulated ahead of Vladivostok summit. We were able not only to achieve continuity in APEC's work, but open up new horizons and, importantly, send positive messages to business circles. When our colleagues, Asian colleagues, decided to create this format many years ago, they made the right choice. It was a useful initiative, and over the past few days, we learned once again that it is a very useful forum to exchange views and try to find solutions to challenges we're all facing. The main outcome of the summit is APEC Economic Leaders Declaration that reflects results of the forum's work during Russian presidency, formulates agenda for the future. Historically, APEC was set up to encourage mutual trade and investment. The philosophy of the forum is to lift barriers, encourage openness of markets, encourage fair competition. Russia believed it was important to step up joint efforts to promote this process, move it forward, especially today that all of us want to see global economy overcome the threat of recession and achieve the trajectory of sustainable and long-term growth. Vladivostok summit had once again reaffirmed APEC economy's commitment to the underlying principles of free trade and integration. Russia also suggested to perform monitoring of environmental policy measures that might hamper trade. An important achievement was adoption of the list of environmental goods. Our efforts to implement arrangements to reduce duties on environmental goods was difficult, but at the end of the day, we managed to adopt a credible list of environmental goods that includes 54 items, groups of goods. Ladies and gentlemen, let me note that under the umbrella of WTO, similar efforts have already taken more than 10 years, so far with no results. While we were able to achieve this breakthrough in just a few months, although finalization and this list of environmental goods was finalized during the meeting. Another important point is that APEC leaders unilaterally supported further regional integration, economic integration. Russia is determined to actively participate in those processes. We are participating in drafting FTA agreements. APEC leaders recognize the importance of full transparency of multilateral and bilateral FTA agreements in the region. It was Russia's initiative to draft and approve a so-called modal chapter to be incorporated in FTA agreements that mandates member states to disclose in advance information on the content of preferential agreements. When we acceded to the WTO, we promised and committed to fully disclose such information, and I believe that when FTA areas are set up, that would also be very handy if participants could provide full information about the conditions and preferential arrangements. Development of regional and economic integration is our strategic choice, and we will be implementing those arrangements in accordance with the coordinated goals of our partners, the customs union, single economic space, with view to our future efforts to set up Eurasian Economic Union. By the way, I want to reaffirm that at the summit we're guided not only by Russia's approach, by coordinated position of the Troika, Russia, Belarus, and Kazakhstan. By the way, you might have heard certain APEC countries are already showing practical interest in establishing special relations, such as free trade areas, with the customs union and the single economic space. We are starting practical negotiations with some of those countries. We also believe the coordination of integration efforts in Eurasian and Asian space would be to the benefit of all. In the future, we could speak about building fruitful dialogue between the participants of the Eurasian Economic Union that is now being established and APEC. Cooperation is possible with other regional associations. During summit, we affirmed the importance of taking joint steps to improve supply chains, to eliminate choke points that remain at that limit flow of goods. We suggest to use the transit potential of our country to diversify regional and global supply chains and create new, shorter, more profitable routes that would link Asia-Pacific region and Europe, both across the continental part of Russia and via the North Sea route. When talking about investment cooperation, we noted the need to share best practices to protect investments. This is yet another topic we discussed. A review of such practices has been made, and they're going to be implemented in all APEC economies. Another important area of our work is food security. Let me note that partners endorsed Russian suggestions aimed at enhancing stability of food market, expanding access to foods for more vulnerable social groups. We spoke about need to attract investments and introduce innovative technologies to agriculture, the need to combat illegal production and trafficking of marine bioresources. By the way, in Los Cabos in Mexico, the G20 meeting, myself and Japanese Prime Minister agreed that we are going to sign an agreement to counter poaching. It's a very sensitive and important issue for us and Japanese partners. I note with satisfaction that during APEC summit we did sign such an agreement. All APEC economies are future-oriented, and it is innovations that hold the future. We are in favor of establishing single education space in the region, establishing comprehensive cooperation between relevant agencies, research institutes, educational facilities and business circles. Among APEC achievements in the year 2012, we can list implementation of initiatives that would ensure closer cooperation between governments and businesses, creating public-private partnerships, policy partnership in innovation and food security. On the eve of the APEC summit, we held many substantial discussions with members of Asia-Pacific Network of International Confederation of Trade Unions. I myself took part in one of such meetings in Moscow just recently. We discussed constructive and useful ideas. In particular, we spoke about how global crisis impacts labor market. We spoke about social responsibility of the state and the business. Trade unions want to have more influence on the work of APEC and participate in the drafting of the outcome declaration. I promised my colleagues from trade unions, and I informed my fellow leaders at the today's summit about the initiative of trade unions, and we agreed to build closer cooperation with trade union leaders. And Indonesian presidency, with our support, shall not only take on board the desire for greater cooperation expressed by trade union leaders, but also host ministerial meeting for labor ministers. Thus, trade unions will have real influence on the agenda and outcome documents of APEC. Russia is ready to share its experience, such as relevant for Asia-Pacific region, as preservation of biodiversity, our experience in combating trafficking of endangered species, partners have shown strong interest to our programs and projects to protect a number of endangered species. Not only tiger, leopard, we also spoke about other animals. We see great potential for cooperation. Environmental protection have strong economic dimensions. For instance, we need to focus on clearing riverbeds, border riverbeds. It is an important environmental problem that has a strong economic dimension. Generally, under Russian presidency in APEC, we held over 100 different events. We hope that they not only demonstrated to our partners technological investment potential of Russia, but helped them to learn more about culture and traditions of our people. We have proven in action that our adherence to ideals and goals of APEC, we stand ready to continue constructive cooperation with all partners. In 2013, we're handing over presidency in APEC to Indonesia, and we sincerely welcome our Indonesian colleagues and friends and wish them every success and wish them fruitful work. In conclusion, I would like to give special thanks to the people of Vladivostok, those who live in Primorsk region. Thank you, dear friends, for your cordial hospitality, for your great contribution to preparation of APEC summit. The success of the forum is our common success, success of Vladivostok and people of the region. We shall definitely continue developing and improving living conditions. The Far East Siberia, we will be making full use of active involvement initiatives of the people of our country and try fully tap new prospects that integration and partnership with Asia-Pacific neighbors open up.